Hi and welcome to Gin Fun at Wine Mastery. We are with Ben Peel here and we've got some exciting gin to tell you about. Roll intro. So as I just said, I'm with Ben here. Ben has just started a new distillery with his partner Emelie. And how long has this distillery actually been going?
We launched Easter, April last year.
Wow, so still a new boy.
In his infancy.
Infancy.
New kids on the block, that's what it is.
Just getting into the marketplace.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. Well, before we actually get into gin, I mean, you didn't sort of presumably leave school and then decide, I'm going to set up a distillery. And what was your journey to get here?
Well, it was before school. I was right into gin. I left school originally wanting to be a chef, believe it or not. Okay. So I always had that maybe that taste or palate for flavour, and I got into the culinary world and realised it killed it as a hobby for me.
Right.
And I'm also a musician, so like most musicians and artists, you fall into jobs to sort of just pay the bills to get by, and I fell into bartending, working in local pubs, pulling pints, and then slowly evolving into the cocktail kind of world.
Okay.
And then that journey, I guess what you said, progressed, you know.
So you use the new word, the new phrase, the mixologist.
Yeah. Well, bartenders hate to be called that, you see. Because normally the bartenders that call themselves that can be sometimes a little showy or a little brash, you know. So it's kind of cool. We play it down a little bit. Yeah, we're just a bartender, a barkeep. Yeah.
Okay, so you left. So you bar, and then you went into the distilling industry.
Yeah, I was bartending for maybe 14, 15 years around the world in different countries and stuff like that. And then I was getting to that age, the tipping point of 30s, where I was still trying to do shots and Jaeger bombs and trying to keep it, cut it with a younger wave of bartenders coming through. When you're partying after shift and stuff like that. And just realising I couldn't handle it anymore. So I applied for a job as an assistant distiller and sadly didn't get it.
Okay.
Saw the job come round again 6 months later and I thought whoever must have got it must not have stuck it out.
Performed, yeah.
Applied again and they recognised my CV, and admired my tenacity of applying again, and they brought me in and give me a chance, a job.
Okay.
Yeah, so I started as an assistant distiller and I'd scrubbing the floors, polishing the stills, carrying the juniper sacks, all the terrible jobs that earns you the right to then be let loose with the stills and have knowledge imparted to you. So yeah.
Okay, and was that a big distillery or was it a small distillery?
Well, it was actually with for one of the pinnacle gin brands called Sipsmith. So
I've heard of them.
Sipsmith changed the law 12 years ago to allow craft distillation to happen. So before that, you needed a 1,500 litre still to enter the game.
Yeah.
They changed the law after years of lobbying to allow anybody to any size still to have a go, and they changed that law and kicked down that door. And 12 years later, we've got over 1,000 distilleries here in the UK.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a pinnacle brand to be with.
I would have said more than 1,000, a lot more than 1,000.
Yeah, at one point I heard some silly rumour that the HMRC are giving out like 3 licences a day, and that was a couple of years ago. So
because I think there's over 400 in Yorkshire alone.
Yeah, 401 now. yeah, 401. Yeah.
So sort of nationwide, there must be an awful lot of distilleries.
Well, that's
which
it,
I have to say means you had a lot of courage to enter a market that is there's a lot of competition out there.
Yeah, well, they say there's a lot of noise, and we noticed that. My microphone. We noticed a lot of the category was becoming similar, like homogenised with their messaging, their branding and stuff like that. So we wanted to create something unique. That if we was going to launch a distillery and join the gin table, we might as well try something different or bring something different to the table. And I like to think that's what we've done with John Roberts' Botanic Request.
So, actually, before we get on to let's ask that question now.
Yeah.
Where did that name come from?
Well, it's a double barrel name. So John Roberts and Botanic Request is John Roberts is my middle name, Benjamin John Robert. my father's a John Robert and my grandfather's a John Robert, and the brand itself celebrates people, to encourage people to be different, to be themselves, to celebrate their quirks, to celebrate their imperfections, because it's what makes them them. And my father and my grandfather are absolutely eccentric and are not shy in being themselves. So we thought it was well suited. And the Botanic request comes from the Rolling Stones album, Their Majesty's Satanic Request, which was their first self-produced album since leaving a major label.
Okay.
So me coming from Sipsmith, which was soon becoming a major global brand, to me starting independent, this was to be my Satanic Request, my self-produced label, my self-produced album, so to speak.
Yeah.
So obviously I didn't want to call it the Satanic Request, and I thought Botanicals, Botanic Request was well suited.
You both got a tick.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
So with obviously in terms of you've mentioned you wanted it to be different.
Yeah.
And with Sipsmith, did you move into a different area rather than just distilling? Did you get involved?
Yeah, I worked through different roles. I pitched for a role that didn't exist within Sipsmith and landed it. When I say landed it, they gave me the opportunity to shine within the company. And I pitched for the role of Innovations Manager, which was a dedicated new product distiller, which is commonly known as like the Willy Wonka of gin. So I got to work with new flavours, distillations, and creating new liqueurs, vodkas, daily, day in, day out. So I got to work with Botanicals a lot and the process of distillation. And then I moved over to their global ambassador, their Minister of Education. So I got to travel the world, meeting bartenders, distillers, trade shows, imparting, I guess, my knowledge that I've learned along the way about distilling, flavour, the science of flavour and aroma, and cocktails as well, which was really great.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So actually, they paid for your education so you could launch your own...
Well, yeah, as such, yeah. They're a good company like that. They're very empowering and very entrepreneurial. So they empower that in you. So if you want to learn, they'll give you the tools to learn. So
fantastic.
I can't knock them.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So how did you apply that? You've said that everything was homogenised, and so you felt it needed to be something different.
Yes.
And that's the easy. No, it's not the easy bit. I mean, you need the skill to be able to identify that.
Yeah.
But actually, asking the question then is, okay, so what can I do is different? And that's a difficult task.
Yes, that's it.
What can I do that's different that's actually going to be... Because as we discussed before we turned on the camera, it's not about what you like, is it? It's about what the customer likes.
Yeah, exactly. So there's got to be that, like if it was a Venn diagram, there's got to be something you believe in and like, but it's also got to resonate with the people you want to drink your product. So innovation is all about problem solving. So it's creative thinking and creative problem solving. So once you look at the industry and identify problems or patterns that you think could be broken or should be broken, you will pose that problem to yourself, and then you will reverse engineer on how would you create something that would fix that problem.
Okay.
So
that sounds easier said than done.
It sounds easier than said than done. It was a lot of head scratching and a lot of gin drinking. So there was a couple of problems that we saw within the industry. Well, let's say problems, patterns that we saw. Problems sounds a bit negative. So we saw that things lose their identity. Identity is lost when things become identical. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we're all the same, there's no you, there's no me, we're just the same. So what we noticed is, funnily enough, I first noticed this when Googling an alarm company for this garage. The first page of Google was number one's premier leading alarm company. Number one's premier leading alarm company. And it's like they all went to the same marketing school. They all used the same three buzzwords. Now they all can't be number one, they all can't be premier and leading, but they are allowed to say it. What we noticed within the gin industry is everybody is small batched, craft and premium. We soon realised there's no laws behind that, anybody can claim it. And it's all relative. Maybe making 10,000 litres is small batch compared to somebody making 100,000 litres, and vice versa. So we looked at that as well, and we looked at branding. We noticed a lot of branding was very similar. There was a lot of vintage brands, vintage font types. It was this old, distinguished gentleman style gin, when the biggest drinker of gin is the female audience. So we noticed we wanted a brand that was all inclusive, and something modern, forward thinking and innovative. So yeah, and then the second problem we posed was botanicals generally go in the still and be boiled and stewed, or vapor infused, and the part that's overlooked is the bit where you steep and macerate the botanicals in the alcohol prior.
What do you mean by macerate?
So macerate is when you put the botanicals in the alcohol and leave it for a duration of time. The alcohol will rip through the botanicals, taking out all their oils and bond into the alcohol. There's like a reaction that happens, and then when you distill the alcohol away from the botanical, the alcohol has taken the flavour. Yes.
Okay.
So distilling's been distilling for 200 years, even more. That process hasn't really changed much. So what we looked at is the steeping process. Could we approach different botanicals with different steeping processes to get the best out of them, and to hold back unwanted flavours, and to encourage other flavours out and stuff like that? So we deploy a very unique process in our maceration stage.
Okay, and to highlight those flavours that you want to come out and suppress the ones that you don't?
Yeah, it's almost like liberating and oppressing a little bit. So we don't want vegetal astringencies, and generally that comes from the delicate botanicals if they are trekked too vigorously. And the other way around is the hard botanicals. It's hard to get the delicate flavours out of them because they're like wood. Yeah. So we use a force that's beyond man's strength. We use vacuum pressure, which I can tell you a little bit about later if you want.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So big answer for your question.
Yeah, that is. But no, it was very, very interesting. So I get that so what you've looked at is to say, how can we get these different flavours out, or the subtleties out of the flavours? But that supposes you know what flavour you want to get. So how do you get to the point where you say, because the flavour, you can't draw a diagram? So.
Yeah, so there's good question. There is a whole science to flavour that most people are just led by their palate and senses, that works together, that doesn't work together. That's how our great-grandparents cooked and their grandparents cooked. We know it works, we stick with that. That doesn't go well together, but there's a reason why they don't, and there's a reason why they do, and it's all down to flavour compounds. So when you taste a lemon, your brain says a singular flavour, I'm tasting lemon. What your palate and your olfactory nasal receptors and everything are deciphering are an amalgamation of like 1,800 individual flavours.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, the top 5 to 10 predominant flavours will also be predominant in other expressions of ingredients. Okay. So lemon, being limonene, is the lead flavour, is also present in dill. One's a herb, one's a fruit, but they both possess a commonality which makes them pair. Now that's a commonality pairing. I'm going to get a little nerdy here. There's also conjoint pairings which are complementing pairings, like, sweet and sour. Bitter and sweet, and stuff like that. So there's 2 avenues you can go down. So when we talk about the flavours, to answer your question, what flavours do we want out and the ones we don't, we looked at the botanicals, their top hitting flavour compounds, and how can we get them out and hold others back, and what do they pair with and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
so...
Whoa.
Yeah.
So you... But what I'm still struggling with in that is you still need to know what Mr. Customer, what you want to drink.
Yes. Okay. So so maybe we're looking more at like market research then. This would be part of the research and development. I was talking more about the development side. Yeah. The research side, we would look at market trends and stuff like that, and we don't want to follow a trend. The trend being the flavoured colour. Flavoured, coloured, sweet gins at the moment. We wanted to establish something that was very classic to build the brand upon, and that was a London dry gin. One, for my peers within the industry, I'd like to bring a product out that they enjoy and respect. And then maybe we can build off the backbone of that, of stepping into flavoured categories and stuff. So we wanted a London dry gin that does what a London dry gin should do. Okay. Strong in juniper, strong in flavour, robust enough, to be diluted by 2/3, with 2/3 in a gin and tonic, but also characterful enough to stay naked in a martini and have personality and stuff like that. So within them constraints, we start developing how do we add character without it being too much, and all this kind of stuff. So that was part of the research.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so in terms of, obviously you're in the industry, so I guess, your experience is what people like, what trends, what people accept.
Yeah.
And I guess what you're saying is in terms of you don't want to be sort of following the curve, you want to just be ahead of it, so you're doing something slightly different, or maybe majorly different, I don't know, but actually that people are going to appreciate. And I think I recall when I tasted this, and we'll put a link to that video when John and I tasted the gin, I seem to recall preferring it actually neat, because I just love the taste on its own.
Well,
and for me the tonic was disturbing that, and I just
Well, I think this is probably the Sipsmith schooling. They created the first ever gin was truly sippable, neat. And the reason, and that was installed into you in training, that the gin should be good on its own two legs, and then in the right hands and with the right mixers, it can only be amplified and better.
Right.
Where it doesn't have to hide behind a tonic and sugars to be good.
Right.
So that was, again, when we created the brief for this liquid, there was many things it had to do, and one of them was you must be able to drink it neat and enjoy it neat as a standalone product.
Right.
As a stamp of quality, and you can say try it neat.
Yeah.
Most people go, because they've had their grandmother's gin or something,
Burns their throat, waters their eyes.
Yeah. So we wanted, and that's a nice little conversation to have with people, because they go, oh my God, I never had, and it opens the door then to say, well, now try it with tonic, now try it in a martini, now try it, so from its most natural naked form, it had to perform.
Yeah. Had to cut mustard, if that's
yeah, true.
So did you once you got so how many versions were there before you use the pun, distilled down to one?
Many. There's a few outtakes up here on the wall, which you're more than happy to film later on to cut to if you want. But there's many outtakes. This wasn't the first recipe we landed on. We started doing one that was very citrus heavy. We was looking at mustard seed.
Oh, right.
I had a bit of an affiliation with mustard seed. I loved it. I wanted to try and get it into a gin as an intriguing botanical that, wow, it's very lemony, but what's this? It's like, we find with the same is with music as well, like creating a hit. You need something that's new, but it also should have an element of familiarity to it. Yeah. So this is like another part of innovation. If you replicate something, then that's not cool. But if you replicate something, but there's a new element to it, so you lend a certain percent to familiarity and a certain percent to.
So I remember our managing director used to say you need to evolve, not revolutionise.
Yeah. That's a good point to do. Yeah, so you can build upon and stuff like that, and that works in the cocktail world. All these new modern cocktails, where they become modern classics, they're generally built upon a family tree of cocktails that are 100 years old or something, or 80, 90 years old, but they've just tweaked one ingredient or sidestepped one or two, and it becomes a whole new beast. But the drinker will go, oh, it's a little bit like this, it's a little bit like that, and
yeah.
So there's that element as well.
So you then went about, obviously, so did you, in terms of market research, presumably you got friends around to taste?
Yeah. Everybody's your friend when it comes to tasting. Even your enemies are friends when it comes to tasting. My grandma being the first lady at the top of the list. So she's
really. Yeah. Was she helpful in the process?
Yes. Helpful in feedback, not so helpful in stock levels.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you mentioned, I mean, obviously, I don't know whether did you focus in terms of market research on you mentioned sort of the biggest customer ladies.
Yes, this isn't aimed just at ladies or women. It's just they are, from the data that I had access to, was the predominant drinker of gin. And not by a big margin, it's just they're
something
at
like
the forefront.
60-40,
something like that, yeah. So we wanted a brand that just celebrated people as a whole. So our messaging and our reason, our why we created this brand is some people are in roles or positions or relationships or in places in their life where they can't be themselves. There's like there could be 50 Shades of Ben. I can't be myself around that person for some reason.
Yes.
What we wanted to do is empower characters and people to be comfortable in themselves. And I don't know if that ties in with a little bit of Dutch courage. Before you go on a date, I'll have a little bit of Dutch courage because I'll be I can be comfortable and at ease and stuff. We just wanted people to feel good, not through drinking, but through empowering them to celebrate and be unique. And the reason we did that is because it sort of matches with our unique processes.
Okay.
So it kind of tied in nice. We make our gin in a unique way. And hopefully it's as unique as you, because there's no one else making gin like that at the moment.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you've got your the formula and how you're going to make it.
Yeah.
And then you had to go out the phrase I always use is punt it around.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So turns out I'm good at making gin. That's what I do. I'm good at making gin. I don't know if I can sell gin. I'm becoming from one role within a company, doing what you do, and then stepping a new startup. It was spinning plates, changing hats. One for 10 minutes, you're a social media manager. For half a day, you're sales. The other day, you're a co-founder. The next day, you're learning accountancy. And I would advise anybody looking to do a startup, do it. It's a roller coaster, but it is an adrenaline rush because you find yourself in uncomfortable situations. But I think you learn a lot about your character, and it helps you to be yourself by stepping out of your comfort zone. There's that saying that great things never happened whilst being comfortable.
True.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, when they say you jump higher or you jump up to the mark, you unlock stuff in your DNA code that you don't even know that's in there.
Well, you grow, don't you?
Yeah.
And then you go out of that comfort zone to go into the next one.
You find yourself all of a sudden with 3 buyers or a manager of a venue, and it turns out he owns 3 or 4 venues, and you're negotiating and talking, but it's you're putting yourself through the mill.
Yeah.
And you come out the other side, hopefully, a better person.
Of course, you learn.
You learn stuff, for sure.
Yeah, and develop on that.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So where is it available at the moment? Is it available online? I'm just thinking because a lot of our viewers are actually overseas.
Oh, okay.
So there's a chunk of them overseas.
We are currently not stocked or supplied overseas just yet. So here in the UK, we are available in a lot of local wholesale wine and spirit merchants. We work with a lot of independent companies, and they liked our ethos, we liked their ethos, and we sort of could connect on that level. So locally, it's available in like Latitude Wine and Spirits. It's available on our website at the botanicrequest.com. We have just managed to get with Master of Malt, which is a national online retailer, and they have some channels to certain countries. I think they can ship abroad to maybe like 15 countries at the moment, and they will be unlocking new territories, I imagine, as post-Brexit and stuff happens.
Yes.
And we are currently in talks with export at the moment, but we have not secured or sealed anything yet.
It takes some time and to get all the approvals and all the local laws and all of that sort of stuff. So
but the dream is to get overseas as well. There seems to be a demand there, people reaching out to us, and we just can't get the gin to them at the moment, So
in terms of your resources, in terms of developing, are you in terms of distilling, are you at full pelt at the moment?
No.
Or you still got capacity.
We've still got capacity to do more, but we are currently just looking to possibly, this could be a scoop, an exclusive, is that we are looking and eyeing up new sites at the moment. Due to our conditions on our licensing, we can't open to the public, but we are now trying to secure a bigger site in a more public area where we can have a visitor centre, tasting rooms, and we're a people brand as well as a spirit brand for what we celebrate. And the frustrating thing is the difficultness to connect with people because we can't invite you in. So we're going to find a place where we can blow open them doors, let you all in, and we can tell you about how we make the gin. We can tell you about gin history. We can talk. You know what I mean, and connect with you, and that's what we're dying to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sure. And I know if in terms of starting a new business, there is so much to do. So I imagine that is frustrating, because I imagine there's all loads of other stuff that seems to be stopping you getting there.
Yes.
Because you've got to spend time on it, obviously. On all the other stuff as well. Well, fantastic. So, do you mind if I just have another taste of as I say, I would do a link to an episode that John and I did tasting this, but I just want to remind myself of the taste.
Yeah, that's it. Get in there, get stuck in.
Yeah, so that doesn't disappoint. Sometimes when you have a drink and you really enjoy it, and then you go back to it a couple of weeks ago, oh, it's not as good as I remember it, because you sort of like pep it up in your mind, but that is delicious. And the thing that really, the two things that immediately come to me as I was drinking it, one is that I know it's 41%, I remember from talking to John that it was 41%, absolutely no burn or eye-watering, it's very, very smooth. But the other thing I really love about it is it seems to produce a lot of saliva in my mouth, and that leaves this lovely fresh feeling.
Well, there's a great technique or a botanical that we put in there especially for that, and it was essentially to give a metallic feeling on your palate. So we use star anise in our gin, and it's not in there to taste like sambuca. It's in there, we put it in very small and dialed it up through development until we got the reaction on the palate that we desired, and that was to salivate. But also, if you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth or behind your front teeth, you get this metallic shine. It stimulates the taste buds, a flavour compound that's in star anise, and that's something we drink a lot of martinis here, and that is something we like on the aftertaste. And when you're quaffing over it, and there's something happening in there 5 minutes after you've had the drink. It was a little point of interest for us on the palate, so to speak.
Well, it really works. So you obviously sort of focus not just on the flavour, but on the whole package in terms of sensations.
Different botanicals do different jobs. So we've got green or blah blah.
Well, I would have believed you. That's obviously just one I've not heard of.
We've obviously been sampling a lot of gin. Green cardamom also adds a nice warming spice, but what it does bring is an oily viscosity that gives it a creamy mouth-like feel. So if you shut your eyes, it should almost taste a little cloudy, a little creamy, a little body to it. And that's the oils from green cardamom. Now there's other botanicals that do that. As a distiller, these are the tools of your trade. Almond, hazelnut, nutmeg, cardamom, they'll add a bit of body and creaminess to the gin.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. So I guess the other question is obviously from a marketing point of view or from your strategy point of view, I know that once you start going out into the market, you'll probably get your customers, be it the end user or indeed the shop, saying, oh, this is great, can you do it with, or can you do another? So are you being pressured to develop another, and are you going to submit to that pressure, or are you focusing on this? Well,
this is it. That's the Venn diagram between your ethics and the brand's ethics, which should be pretty closely aligned anyway, but it's the most common question we get is, what flavours do you do? And this is a terminology that gets thrown out in the gin world. Hi, I'm ringing up, I've got this gin, I'd love to come out. What flavours do you do? And it's become a standard that the flavours wouldn't exist without London Dry Gin. London Dry Gin is a category that's been around for 200 years, and it's a seal of approval of quality. And flavoured gins are sugars, colourings, essences, and stuff like that. So there's no legality or controllings on what you can do with it. Some flavoured gins can have up to 100, 200, 300 grams of sugar per litre in it. So we started with the London Dry, but there is that pressure with the market demand wanting flavours. Now we are developing and working on some new products, which can't tell you just yet, but we are forever tinkering and working on stuff, and there's a couple of forefront winners that we're thinking, do we bring it to market, do we not bring it to market? And we're very close to making a decision on whether we bring out a second product.
Yeah, well, and everyone is going to have their own thing, but that is an amazing gin. So congratulations!
Thank you very much
to you both and to your co-founder Emelie for.
Sadly, she can't be here. So
no, but so fine. Yeah. It's a business to run, so I'm sure she's got lots of things to do. So that's great. Is there anything I've missed out? You think that our viewers should know about?
Yeah, I don't think we touched on. So our botanicals in our gin, we have 11 carefully chosen botanicals, but we split them into delicates and hardy botanicals.
Okay.
So delicate being a leaf, a tea or a herb or a zest, anything that you could easily express oils from.
Okay.
And the hardy ones being anything that's wooden, dense, hard. And what we do is, when I talked about the maceration techniques earlier, these two pieces of equipment that you can maybe see is an ultrasonic sound bath.
Okay.
So our delicate botanicals go into there with our alcohol wash, and we vibrate surface oils off of it.
Oh wow.
And how that works is loads of little air bubbles join together and then jet against the botanical at like 400 psi, but so minute. So it's a gentle scrubbing abrasive of the surface. So we remove oils and tannins from delicate botanicals with that. And our hardy ones we put into a vacuum pressure container, and we pull the vacuum pressure equivalent of the same atmosphere of twice the height of Everest.
Wow.
Now, I don't know if you've ever seen Total Recall on Mars when he takes his helmet off and his head implodes.
Yeah.
That's what we wanted to do with our hard botanicals, and that's how we achieve it. They implode and express oils.
Right.
When we bring the pressure back, they suck in alcohol into the cavity where there was once oil or air.
Right.
So it leaves no stone unturned on kicking out flavour from the hard botanicals. So that's something I'd love to just mention. And also the still that you can see here in the background, I kind of built myself from loads of different parts of stills.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, well done.
So this is not like an off-the-shelf kind of still. And there's all these bits of copper and stuff like that. And there's this here I pulled out to show you is another sort of thing we've designed that sits in the helmet, because copper is the fact that you can drink that gin neat is because copper removes sulfates and sulfites, and our palate is trained to hate them. Like animals, red is danger, sulfite to our palate is danger, gives you a headache and all that kind of stuff. Copper, once it has contact with copper, makes copper sulfate, and it gets a patina built up, and that's all the impurities sticking to the copper and not coming over the still.
Okay.
Into the bottle.
Right.
So we built this still and kept adding copper and copper and copper until we got the right amount of mouthfeel that we taste now. You know, the zero burn, smoothness, and that's something I'd love to obviously just to throw in there. You know what I mean?
It adds to the differentiation.
Yeah. So a still, essentially, when you bake a cake, you can use the same recipe in any oven and you get the same cake.
Yeah.
A gin recipe will come out different on different equipment, different stills. So if this is the oven to the cake, it imparts character. And that's what also makes our gin unique. And it's what makes, say, Sipsmith's gin unique or Divine's gin. You know, whoever you choose, their equipment will impart a sonic thumbprint.
Yeah.
And that's something that imparts a smoothness to our gin.
Well, while I'm looking at this piece of equipment here, what is it? Looks like almost like a diver's helmet.
Yeah, yeah. Well, after a few martinis, you could wear it if you want. It's this is Sputnik. So this is our pilot still. So like you've got this big still here. This would also connect onto this. So you've got the pot, the helmet, and the line arm or the swan's neck. We design all our recipes on this 15-litre still, Sputnik. From the neck upwards will connect to this.
Okay.
And the reason being is when you create a recipe on small scale and you scale it up, when I told you the stills behave differently,
yes.
If I scale a 15-litre recipe up to 100 litres, and the recipe will need tweaking and changing because it will behave differently. But what we've done is all the copper contact is from the pot upwards.
Okay.
So the sonic footprint it's going to put upon the liquid is going to be the same. Yeah. So that's a design thing. But yeah, this is Sputnik. The reason being because it looks like Sputnik.
Yeah.
We're still yet to name this one, so if anybody's got any names for it, think innovation, think that kind of thing. It's been dubbed Apollo 13 at one point. It's had all sorts of different names, but nothing's stuck as of yet.
Well, leave the comments below if you have got an idea, and obviously, Ben will be able to see them, but also I'll pass them on. So
fantastic.
Well, fantastic. Well, Ben, thank you so much for your time. I know actually you're a busy man. You're running your business, and so I really do appreciate your time taking out to speak to us. And I guess it just leaves me to say, I wish you all the best, every success, and you guys, gin.
Cheers.